The Transcendent Seed of Abraham, Charles E Newbold Jr, Part 13. The Restoration of Natural Israel. The transcendent seed that was in the northern kingdom of Israel, those scattered to the nations, passed through the sons of their foreign wives. After several generations, they had the appearance of other ethnic groups wherever they had been scattered. They became Oriental, African, Anglo-Saxon, and so on. After several generations, they no longer knew that they were of the seed of Abraham, and remembered nothing of the covenant with its promises. But Yahweh knew. Yahweh knew where every one of his seed had been scattered, and he promised to Jeremiah that he would gather the remnant of his flock out of all countries where he had driven them, and would bring them again to their folds. They would dwell in their own land. Jeremiah 23, 3-8. Numerous restoration prophecies are spoken of in the Old and the New Covenants that we simply cannot ignore. The prophet Ezekiel was told by Yahweh to take 2 sticks. He was to write Judah on one of the sticks and Joseph on the other. Judah represented the southern kingdom of Judah. Joseph, also called Ephraim, represented the northern kingdom of Israel. These are also called the 2 houses of Israel. Ezekiel was to join the sticks together to become one in his hand. He was to explain to the people that Yahweh would be taking these 2 sticks or houses and making them one in his hand. Speaking for Yahweh, he said, "Look, I will take the sons of Israel from among the nations where they have gone, and I will gather them from every side and bring them into their own land. I will make them one nation in the land, on the mountains of Israel. One king will be king for all of them, and they will no longer be 2 nations, and no longer be divided into 2 kingdoms." Ezekiel 37, 15-28. This has not taken place in history between natural Israel and Judah. It is yet to come. What Yahweh promises will come about. His promises to Israel are everlasting. Israel's blindness continues until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Luke 21:24. After that, the veil will be lifted from Israel's eyes, and they will return to Yahweh their God. 2 Corinthians 3:13-16. Paul wrote regarding Israel's status, "What then? Israel has not obtained that which he seeks for, but the election has obtained it, and the rest were blinded. According as it is written, God has given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear unto this day." And David said, "Let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their backs always. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather through their fall salvation has come unto the Gentiles, to provoke them to jealousy. Now, if their fall is for the riches of the world, and their diminishing is for the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness?" Romans 11, 7-12. A partial restoration has already taken place. Thousands of Jews began migrating back to their homeland after the turn of the 20th century, and against numerous odds became a nation in 1948. Jerusalem was recaptured in 1967. The struggle between Israel and the descendants of Ishmael, who call themselves Palestinians, prevails to this present time. The fullness of this return is yet to come. Judah and Israel will be made one. Judah and Israel have endured much persecution, rejection, and suffering throughout their history. The world and many within the church have essentially written Israel off. But let us be sure of this one thing. Every act of judgment and destruction to Israel for her iniquities and idolatries by Yahweh was followed by a promise of restoration. Natural Israel as a people in the land of Israel is Yahweh's prophetic clock, counting down his time of restoration. we see the unfolding of his story being told as prophesied of old. This restoration is a work that only Yahweh can do in his set time. The end of the ages. From here onward, we await the fulfillment of tabernacles and the manifestation of the sons of Yahweh as promised in Romans 8:19. For the earnest expectation of the creature waits for the manifestation of the sons of God. Knowing that we who believe are of the transcendent seed of Abraham impacts our understanding of the gospel of the kingdom of Yahweh. We now understand that we are a people by him and for him. We understand that he knew us before the foundation of the world, that he chose us, that he created us for his sake and not for our own sake. Yet, for the most part, we have grown up under a self-sake gospel that erroneously preaches that Yahweh exists to save us so we can live abundant lives in this world, miss hell, and go to heaven when we die. The focus is upon us. Consequently, we view God as someone we have to bargain with to get what we think we want and need for our sakes. We also view him as someone who is hard to please, and all but a few will make it in. This is a self-seeking gospel, and we were not created for that. We were created by and for Yahweh, that he might have a people of his own. We were not saved for our sakes, but for his sake. When we try to live our lives for our sakes, trying to fashion our lives in contradiction to his eternal intentions, we live frustrated, empty and defeated lives. We miss our purpose for existence. Our lives are not the lives he wants for us to live. His life is the life he wants for us to live. Galatians 2:20. He wants to live his life in us and through us, as us. Therefore, we are to live in the faith of the Son of God in order for him to have what he wants. When we see our existence from Yahweh's perspective, it literally catapults us into a much higher realm of reality. We have a focused sense of purpose that produces a peace that passes all understanding. When we surrender ourselves to him so that he can have what he wants, ironically, we are given life more abundantly. We must be apprehended by the knowledge that we are not our own, but have been bought with a price. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Moreover, this revelation that we exist for him wipes out all foolish notions that we have anything to do with our salvation. Since he created us and called and chose us for himself, then it is totally up to him to do what he promised for himself, to conform us into the image of his Son. He wants this more than we do. We should want it as much as he does. But we all, with open face beholding, as in a glass, the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. 2 Corinthians 3:18. For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestine, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified. Romans 8:29-30. For we are his workmanship, created in Messiah Yeshua unto good works, which God has before ordained, that we should walk in them. Ephesians 2:10. Being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perform it until the day of Yeshua Messiah. Philippians 1:6. From his perspective, we are in Messiah and he is in us, and thereby we are new creatures. All things have passed away, and all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Consequently, he has raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Messiah Yeshua. Ephesians 2:6. That's all his part. Our part is to believe. Yeshua answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that you believe on him whom he has sent. John 6:29. We believe in the finished work of Messiah on the cross. If Yeshua satisfied the Father, we ought also to be satisfied with him and what he finished for the Father. If we truly believe, we will love him. If we love him, we will obey him. Therefore, let us cease from thinking we were created and saved for our sakes. We were created and saved for his sake. It is not about us, it is all about him. Know whose you are and who you are in Messiah Yeshua, and you will know why you are, what you are, and where you are, created for him as a son of his and seated with him in heavenly places. That revelation will utterly transform you. We who believe in Yahweh through faith in Yeshua are of the transcendent seed of Abraham, the transcendent people for Yahweh, the people of this timeless line, a holy habitation for Yahweh in the Spirit. For all the promises of Yahweh in Yeshua are yes, and in him amen, unto the glory of God by us. 2 Corinthians 1:20. The end.